Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Coffee. Without it, we would never have had the Industrial Revolution. We'd all be still living in Europe in mud huts. Here in Laredo, we have the Organic Man Coffee Trike. 4501 McPherson, the best coffee on the planet. If you can't get to Laredo, you can order from the Organic Man Coffee Trike .shop. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. The United Kingdom is way out front, with Italy right on their heels. Canada has moved into the third place, and Australia seems to have thrown a shoe and is limping along in fourth. If you're listening to Storytime with Chris James, I'm finishing up the ninth novel, UFOs Attack the Bag Company. And I'll begin recording number 3, The Bag Company Goes Squatching, soon. At first, I was going to only record the books on Storytime, but then some of the folks that follow me, they didn't want to have to go find a new channel and all the stuff, so I just put it on both Storytime and on Strange Things. And it's also on iHeartRadio now, so I don't know. It's getting complicated. Hope y'all are enjoying it. Just like last week, this show took a lot of research. I hope the numbers don't mess anybody up. There's not any math, but to keep things straight, I had to use numbers, and there are a lot of them. Heinrich Rudolf Hertz was born in 1857 in Hamburg, a sovereign state of the German Confederation, into a prosperous family, which meant he didn't have to work for a living. His father was Gustav Fernando. Try that one more time. Ferdinand Hertz. Not that it matters to the show. In 1864, Scottish mathematician and physicist James Clerk Maxwell proposed a comprehensive theory of electromagnetism, now called Maxwell's equations. Maxwell's theory predicted that coupled electric and magnetic fields could travel through space as an electromagnetic wave. Maxwell proposed that light consisted of electromagnetic waves of short wavelength, but nobody had been able to prove his theory. There was no way of testing it at the time. During Hertz's studies in 1879, Helmholtz suggested that Hertz's doctoral dissertation be on testing Maxwell's theory. Helmholtz had also proposed the problem along with the Berlin Prize that year at the Prussian Academy of Sciences for anybody who could experimentally prove an electromagnetic effect in the polarization and depolarization of insulators, something predicted by Maxwell's theory. Helmholtz was sure Hertz was the most likely candidate to win. Not seeing any way to build an apparatus to experimentally test this, Hertz thought it was too difficult and he worked on electromagnetic induction instead. Hertz did produce an analysis of Maxwell's equation during his time at Kiel, showing they did have more validity than prevalent. What was known as action at a distance, the concept that an object could be affected without being physically touched. Not to be mistaken for spooky action at a distance. Between 1886 and 1889, Hertz conducted a series of experiments that would prove the effects he was observing were results of Maxwell's predicted electromagnetic waves. Seeing as Hertz discovered the vibrations from Maxwell's theory, these vibrations were named Hertz. One vibration per second, what's a sequent? One vibration per second equals 1 hertz. 1,000 vibrations per second equals 1,000 hertz, and so on. One complete oscillation of a sound wave is called a cycle. Hertz simply measured the frequency of the cycle. Because Hertz's family converted from Judaism to Lutheranism 2 decades before his birth, his legacy ran afoul of the Nazi government in 1930s, a regime that classified by people by race instead of religious affiliation. Hertz's name was removed from streets and institutions, and there was even a movement to rename the frequency unit named in his honor. They were going to call it after Helmholtz instead, but they're going to keep the HZ symbol unchanged. His family was also persecuted for their non-Aryan status. Hertz's youngest daughter, Matilda, lost her lectureship at Berlin University after the Nazis came into power. And soon her sister and mother left Germany to settle in England. Cycles are also referred to as vibrations. The frequency of a sound wave refers to the number of cycles or vibrations per unit of time. The standard measure of frequency is called hertz. 1 hertz equals 1 vibration per second. The human ear ranges from 20 to 20,000 hertz. A sound above this frequency are called ultrasonic, while sounds below that frequency are called infrasonic. When you hear somebody talking about infrasound, that's what they're referring to. 18.98 hertz is called infrasound. It's sound that's too low to hear by the ear, but your brain still seems to pick it up. Some say to listen to this ultra-low frequency will cause your mind to produce the symptoms of a haunting, feelings of dread and depression. People have reported having actual visions while unknowingly being exposed to 18.98 hertz. Ultra low frequency is 3 to 30 kilohertz. Low frequency is 30 to 300 kilohertz. Intermediate frequency is 300 to 3000 kilohertz. High frequency is 3 to 30 megahertz. Very high frequency, better known as VHF, is 30 to 300 megahertz. Used to be you had two ways of watching TV. You had VHF and UHF, and that was it. UHF is ultra high frequency, 300 to 3000 megahertz. Super high frequency, 3 to 30 gigahertz, and extremely high frequency, 30 to 300 gigahertz. According to studies, certain sounds and frequencies can alter your mind and body chemistry. In ancient times, vibrational sound instruments, sounds and chantings were used in healing sessions, treatments, and ceremonies to stimulate positive chemical changes in people's soul, body, and mind. For instance, Greek physicians used vibrations to induce sleep and aid in digestion. In addition, these physicians opted for flutes to heal patients. Manifestation hertz were termed as solfeggio. There's a cat trying to jump up on my lap. solfeggio, what a word. Oh, now I've lost my place because of my cat. Anyway, they are termed as solfeggio frequencies. The early Roman Christians used solfeggio frequencies to raise energy and vibrations. In those days, meditation and manifestation were a form of prayer. There are numerous benefits of manifestation Hertz. It is to boost your mood, increase your mindfulness, organize your feelings and thoughts, gain a deeper appreciation, especially for what you have, all by using the right sounds in the form of Hertz. Hertz cause the brain to release chemicals that flow throughout the body, helping it to heal. Sound triggers our emotions, feelings, memories, and senses, such as our sense of taste and smell. Based on research, sound healing is effective in healing generational, emotional, and physical trauma to your DNA. The vibrations and frequencies play a significant role in the entire healing process. This may be why me and a lot of folks I know like listening to the music we heard back when we were young and our bodies didn't hurt so much. It reminds us, maybe gives us a bit of the good old days. Companies are making machines that vibrate at selected hertz to help heal the human body. Now, I've never used one, so I can't say for sure that they work. I do have a singing bowl that gives out 432 hertz. It used to be you could read the reviews and come to a conclusion as to which machine might be best. People would buy it and they would use it, and then they'd say, oh, yes, this is a good item, or this thing blows. Nowadays, companies are paying to get good reviews, and they're also paying to give bad reviews to other companies. So, when you go to look at all those reviews at the bottom of the page, it might be just a bunch of hooey. You'll have to do research on your own to figure out which ones actually work and which one are just being paid for their good or bad outcome. Some frequencies will help individuals reconnect with the spiritual world. According to studies, 963 hertz focuses on either enlightenment or divine consciousness. It's the highest healing frequency. It offers the feeling of being one with your body, soul, and mind. If you feel like you're disconnected from the universe, go with 963 hertz. In addition, this frequency is associated with activation of the pineal gland and awakening of intuition. This means that it awakens your crown chakra. It raises positive vibrations and energy that helps individuals connect with the universe. Scientifically, human beings are made of energy and vibration. There are various benefits of 963 hertz. It balances crown chakra, awakens your system to its perfect state, and helps individuals return to oneness. Some of y'all might be thinking this sounds like a whole lot of New Age stuff. In India, they taught about vibrations and chakras for thousands of years. Knowledge of the chakra system was first passed down to each successive generation using oral tradition. This was done by Indo-European people who became known as the Aryans. Bet y'all didn't know. Some of y'all didn't know that the Aryans were from India. The chakra system was first found in the Vedic texts in ancient India between 1500 and 500 BC. As for being New Age, only if you consider 3,500 years to be new. The main objective of 852 hertz is to rebalance an individual's spirituality. This means you'll connect not only to your consciousness, but also to the universe. Some ancient physicians used this frequency to help patients embrace spirits. There are numerous benefits to 852 hertz. It raises cell energy, awakens inner strength, allows someone to return to the spiritual order, balances the third eye chakra. The third eye, it's associated with intuition and intelligence. For problem solving and intuition, opt for 741 hertz frequency. In some instances, this frequency will help individuals struggling with chronic pain. In addition, it provides mental clarity and awakens intuition. This tone will lead to stable, pure, and spiritual life. This means that this frequency is key to improving the quality of life. There's a wide range of benefits that are associated with 741 hertz. Some of these benefits include balancing the throat chakra, purifying body and mind, detoxifying your organs and cells, cleaning the cells, promoting solutions, and promoting expression. 639 hertz can repair turbulent relationships with family, community, and close friends. The main aim of 639 hertz is to balance and connect interpersonal relationships. Based on studies, this ancient solfeggio, I don't know why that word gives me so many problems, solfeggio frequency is ideal for improving understanding, communication, love, and tolerance. Some benefits of 639 hertz include balancing the heart chakra, encouraging your cells to communicate with their environment, creating interpersonal relationships, and dealing with relationship problems, especially among friends, partners, and family. Based on research, 528 hertz is among the most powerful manifestation frequency. This is because it has a profound effect on an individual's wellness. 528 hertz frequency can activate intuition, intention, and imagination. In some cases, 528 hertz frequency is termed as the love frequency of transformation, or miracle tone. It reduces cortisol in the body, thus lowering stress levels. In addition, it plays an important role in increasing your energy levels. Some studies show that the 528 hertz frequency tunes and balances the solar plexus chakra, boosting your self-esteem and self-confidence. 417 facilitates change because it marks the start of a new beginning. Also, it removes negative energy from your body. 417 solfeggio frequency plays a great role in wiping out all the negative energy. There's a wide array of benefits associated with this manifestation hertz. It eliminates trauma, facilitates change, balances the sacral chakra, removes negative behavioral patterns and thoughts, eliminates a negative energy from the body and home, and it changes situations with negative outcomes. That's the frequency Moriarty should have had in Kelly's Heroes. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you missed a really good movie. There you go with the negative waves. Well, anyway, best war movie, if you like comedies. Well, dark comedy. 396 hertz solfeggio frequency will eliminate grief, fear, and guilt. In addition, this frequency plays a vital role in turning grief into joy. Man, I've got cats all around me now. Okay. Other benefits of this frequency include it balances the root chakra, liberates subconscious negative thoughts and beliefs, gives you the power to attain your goals, eradicates guilt, and overcomes fear. I don't know why they want to walk on skinny little shelves, but speaking of Kelly's Heroes, I can't get it back on the. Anyway, you can use 285 hertz frequency to treat minor wounds and injuries in the body. In some studies, this frequency repairs cells and damaged organs. Also, this frequency targets your energy field, thus catalyzing the healing process of burns, fractures, cuts, and sprains. It's most beneficial for addressing holes and issues relating to your energetic or aura field. If you've never had a energy healing, a lot of this might sound a bit out there to you. My wife and I have both had them, and I have to say they do work. Now, like I said, once again, you're going to go with that new age stuff. Well, it's only been around for a couple thousand years. You've heard of the laying on of hands? That's a form of energy healing. The 174 hertz solfeggio frequency can relieve stress and pain. Also, it improves concentration. It provides your body organs with a sense of security. In addition, it's beneficial when it comes to pain in the legs, lower back, and feet. Sounds like I need more of the 174 hertz. The 174 hertz solfeggio frequency will lessen tension in your body. It's the lowest manifestation frequency. In addition, this frequency relaxes muscles and acts as a natural analgesic. According to studies, most people who opt for this frequency report finding relief from migraines, back pain, knee pain, etc. You can find solfeggio frequency generators online, but like I said, I don't have one, so I can't really say which ones are any good or not. You'll have to do a little investigating on your own. I don't know what's going on, but all my cats have decided to try to get up in my lap at one time. That would be bad. Musical instruments need to be tuned. When you turn a tuning peg on a stringed instrument or adjust the length of the tube of a wind instrument, it makes it sound a bit higher or lower. For different instruments and even different strings of one instrument to sound good together, they have to be producing the same tone, the same pitch, when they play the same musical note. The usual way to specify a tuning is to give the frequency of the note A4. The modern standard is A equals 440 hertz, or 440 vibrations per second. To tune to this frequency, a musician would either listen to a tone played by some tuning device or tune by ear using an electronic tuner. There's a lot being said about why 440 was chosen instead of 432. You can find a lot of articles and videos that say you should tune to 432 hertz instead. This will give you the benefit of healing and soothing properties. 432 hertz is tuned to the vibrations of nature itself, whereas 440 hertz tuning was introduced by Joseph Goebbels of the Nazi Ministry of Propaganda. At least that's what some people say. Okay, maybe not, but there are a lot of articles that say that he was the one that determined that 440 was to be used in order to control people's minds. You can find it's called the 440 conspiracy, if you want to look it up. And there are lots of articles about it. 432 is a sum of four consecutive prime numbers. 103, 107, 109, and 113 equals 432. It is exactly 3 gross, which is 3 times 144. Oh, that's gross. No, a dozen dozens is a gross. An equilateral triangle whose area of perimeter are equal has an area of exactly the square root of 432. There are 432 Buddha statues on Mount Meru, and they are related to the locations of the chakras. Back in the 1600s, there was no standardized way to tune instruments. The same piece of music would sound much higher or lower depending on where and when it was performed. Even organs in different churches in the same city would be tuned to completely incompatible ways. The pitches music instruments produced changed over time due to heat, mechanical wear, and tear. So until the tuning fork was invented in 1711, there was no simple way to make tuning consistent among different regions and even performances in one region. Even after the invention of the tuning fork, there was no single standardized tuning. Ensembles in different regions used tuning forks resonating at different frequencies. Orchestras competing with one another over better sound started to tune their instruments higher and higher. This eventually led to a problem for singers who complained about having to perform pieces in higher registers than they were originally meant to perform in. At the urging of singers, the French government made the tuning A equals 435 Hertz. Officially standard in France in 1859, and many orchestras and opera houses in Europe adopted this standard. Britain, however, seeing as the French standard was interpreted as in erroneous ways, it was understood as being relative to a certain temperature. So in Britain, instead of using 435 hertz, they went with 439 hertz. France and England, they never do see eye to eye. 1939, at the the height of the Nazi power in Germany, there was an international conference held in London that resulted in a recommendation to use A as 440 hertz as a compromise between the various tuning systems used at the time, some of which reached beyond 450 hertz. This recommendation was further supported by the fact that the BBC required their orchestras to tune to 440 hertz instead of 439, because 439 is a prime number and corresponding frequency was hard to generate electronically with standard electronic clocks. Eventually, in 1955, the standard A equals 440 hertz was adopted by the International Organization for Standardization. I didn't even know there was such a thing. It's a bunch of guys sitting in a dark, smoky room, kind of like off the X-Files, who all decide what the rest of us should do and think. Oh, something like that. Anyway, that's the conspiracy theorist in me. Virtually all commercial produced contemporary music is tuned to 440 hertz. Nevertheless, most symphony orchestras ignore this standard and tune to 441 or 442 or somewhere in that range. While orchestras specializing in older music may sometimes use a tuning close to one for which the piece was originally written, which could be 415 to 470 hertz. Nikola Tesla said, "If you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What we have called matter is energy, whose vibration has been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter." Albert Einstein agreed with Tesla's idea. Science has proven it. It is a known fact that everything, including our bodies, is made up of energy vibrating at different frequencies. You're giving off good vibrations? I hate that song. I'll tell you more about that later. Anyway, it seems logical to say that sound frequencies affect us physically and mentally. Frequency affect frequencies as well, much like mixing ingredients with other ingredients that affects the overall flavor of a meal. The way frequencies affect the physical world has been demonstrated through various experiments, such as the science of cymatics and water memory. Cymatics illustrates that when sound frequencies move through a particular medium, such as water, air, or sand, they directly alter the vibration of that matter. Water memory also illustrates how our own intentions may even alter the material world. This has been demonstrated by Dr. Masaru Emoto, who has performed studies showing how simple intentions through sound, emotions, and thoughts can dramatically shape the way water crystallizes. That's when it freezes. We all hold a certain vibrational frequency, and our bodies are estimated to be about 70% water. It stands to reason that music frequencies could also alter our own vibrational state. Every expression through sound, emotion, and thought holds a specific frequency which influences everything around it. Much like a single drop of water can create large ripple effect in a large body of water. Most music worldwide has been tuned to 440 Hertz since 1953. When looking at the vibrations of nature and of the universe, it is possible that this pitch is disharmonious with the natural resonance of nature, and it may generate negative effects on human behavior and consciousness. Now, some of this is not theory and some of it is. Think about the music you listen to, whichever kind is your favorite: jazz, country, old rock, rock and roll, new rock. There is some music that being played that I don't listen to. I hate anything with accordions. Any song by the Beach Boys, good vibrations. Any song by the Beach Boys, and some of y'all are going to be, I don't know, upset about this. I don't like the Beatles. Never have, never will. These groups annoy me. They cause a physiological effect on me that makes me want to change the station. Now, I can't drive around the block without my radio on in my truck. Well, my CD player now because I swapped it out. But originally, when I used to drive, if I'm listening to the radio and all of a sudden the Beatles or the Beach Boys or anything with accordions came on the radio, I'd immediately switch to another channel. And if I couldn't find a channel to listen to, I would go so far as to turn the radio off, wait about 4 minutes, and then turn it back on. And like I said, I can't drive around the block without listening to music. Other folks just love accordion music. Like, you can't go to a wedding without death by accordion, at least in this town. The accordion was invented as a torture device by the Germans. Okay, maybe not really, but that and the bagpipes. Now I know some of y'all like bagpipes. Not me. Huffing and puffing on the doodle bag. Well, anyway, it's a little old lady being attacked by a sea monster. Yes, Bugs Bunny. Me and my wife listen to smooth jazz when we're eating. It just seems to make the food taste better and easier to digest. It's one of those things. So whenever we sit down for dinner, I'll put on Pandora, because it's on my radio already, my tablet already, and I'll tune to smooth jazz and we'll listen to that while we eat. I also like rock and roll. Try listening to Highway Star by Deep Purple and not accidentally get a ticket. I used to tell people I liked the color groups: the Moody Blues, Deep Purple, King Crimson, Blue Oyster Cult, Black Sabbath, etc., etc. Each of these groups had a color in their name. I guess it was the thing at the time. To make life even more bizarre, I also listened to country music. Not that new stuff. I'm talking the older stuff. Waylon Jennings, David Allan Coe, Willie Nelson, all those guys. Why do I have such a diverse music appreciation? Why do songs by such far reaching groups make me feel good? Others listen to far different types of music. Some of the stuff out there today makes me think most folks have lost their hearing. They think that my taste in music is strange, if not bizarre. The Nazi regime is said to have been in favor of adopting 440 as a standard after conducting scientific experiments to determine which range of frequencies best induced fear and aggression. Whether or not the conspiracy is factual, studies have pointed towards the benefits of tuning music to 432 Hertz instead. Now, the 440 was determined to be the right one in England. Before Germany attacked Poland, just about every country on the planet thought that Adolf Hitler was a good thing and that Germany was headed in the right direction. Adolf Hitler was the man of the year in Life magazine till he attacked Poland. So just because the 440 Hertz came out of England doesn't mean that's where the idea started. Something to think about. It is said that 432 Hertz vibrates with the universe's golden mean, PHI. I believe that's pronounced pi or phi. If y'all know, let me know. PHI, and unifies the properties of light, time, space, matter, gravity, magnetism with biology, the DNA code, and consciousness. I tried to find a definition of PHI that I could say without getting confused myself. There isn't one. I just think of it as a mathematical equation used by folks who know things. When our atoms and DNA start to resonate in harmony with the spiritual pattern of nature, our sense of connection with nature is said to be magnified. The number 432 is also reflected in ratios of the sun, earth, and moon, as well as the precession of the equinox, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, Stonehenge, and the Sri Yantra, among many other sacred sites. All the frequencies in the color spectrum are related to octaves, from gamma rays to subharmonics. These colors and the notes are also related to our chakras and other important energy centers. If we are to understand that chakras are connected to the 7 rays of the solar spectrum, then the notes and frequencies we use for some should be the same. 432 Hertz is the tuning of the cosmic keyboard or cosmic pitchfork, as opposed to 440 Hertz, the modern standard that places C, the note C, at 136.10 Hertz. Om, which is the main note of the sitar in classic Indian music, and the pitch of the chants of the Tibetan monks who tell us it comes from nature. Music lovers and musicians have noticed that music tuned to 432 Hertz is not only more beautiful and harmonic to the ear, but it also induces a more inwards experience that is felt inside the body, at the spine, and the heart. Music tuned to 440 Hertz was felt as a more outward and mental experience and was felt at the side of the head, which projected outwards. Audiophiles have also stated that 432 Hertz music seems to be non-local and can fill an entire room, whereas 440 Hertz can be perceived as directional or linear in sound propagation. The ancients tuned their instruments at A equals 432 Hertz instead of 440. There are plenty of music examples in the internet that you can listen to in order to establish the difference for yourself. Attuning the instruments to 432 Hertz results in a more relaxing sound, while 440 slightly tenses up the body. This is because 440 Hertz is out of tune with both microcosmics and macrocosms. 432 Hertz is in tune. The overall sound difference was noticeable. The 432 version sounded warmer, clearer, instantly sounded more listenable. But the 440 version felt tighter with more aggressive energy. Confucius said, "If you should desire to know whether a kingdom is well governed, if its morals are good or bad, the quality of its music will furnish the answer." For thousands of years, indigenous people of all cultures used the drum to alter consciousness and travel into alternate realities to receive answers to their questions. China is credited with coming up with the first drum about 700 years BC. It was a wooden circle with leather stretched over one side. There's something about the sound of a drum beat, especially a fast one, that makes you want to do things. Drums were used by the military to march people into battle. Was it the ability to be heard for long distance, or was it used to prepare soldiers to kill and be killed? You can feel the vibrations as a drum is being hit, depending on the hertz. It can vibrate your skin or the organs of your body. A shaman would use drums to help send themselves into a trance. The vibrations would cause visions or maybe even travel. Which worlds might they have visited? Maybe other dimensions. We usually refer to time waves in terms of cycles or rhythms, but they have the same frequency, wavelength, and amplitude characteristics as other waves. By knowing which vibrations would cause the mind to travel, it would be possible to see what is happening in the past or even the future. In order to see the future events, this would mean they have to already be there. If you visit the mall as it's under construction, you might get in trouble. The folks doing the building don't want shoppers stumbling around as they're putting up the walls and running the electrical wiring. In order to visit the mall, it has to already be there. To see the future, it has to be there as well. This kind of thing causes my head to hurt. If the future is already there, this would be a form of predestiny. The future is set and we just move from one point in time to another. We're not causing life, we're only experiencing it. Life might be like reading a book. As you flip the pages, you go from today to tomorrow. Say you're in the middle of the story and you realize you missed something. Who is Hortense Medusa, you may ask? If you listen to the story, to my story time, you'll know. Well, actually, you won't know because she hasn't shown up yet. There you are, halfway through Unhappy Halloween. That's the book, not the story time yet. You discover you don't remember who Hortense is. You can go back and read The Bag Company Go Squatching, and then you'll know all about her. This would be a form of time travel. You're going back in time to see who this character is. Now, if you're one of those people who hates not knowing how a story ends, you could go forward in time to see what happens in the conclusion of The Bag Company Go West. This is only possible because the story has already been written. Time travel into the future is only possible if the future has already happened. I hate thinking about this. It would negate any kind of a choice in how our life is going to unfold. Like I said, we're not creating the future. We're simply experiencing it. Those are the kind of thoughts that make my head hurt. Ancient folks would be more concerned with finding food, water, and shelter. They might ask the shaman to look around and find him a date, some good looking person not living in their own tribe. More than likely, the tribe consisted of relatives, and you don't want to run around with one of your cousins. This might be fine for the royals, but it's not fine for the normal folks out there. Well, usually. There are some people married their own cousins, but oh well. Charles Fort was one. He married his cousin. Albert Einstein married his cousin. Yikes. I don't think either of those folks had any kids, though. If they did, they probably looked like the royals. Inbreeding, it's not a good thing. Once everyone's belly was full and they had a camp well away from the saber-toothed tigers, somebody might have asked the shaman, "Where will the tribe be in a few years?" The shaman would begin beating his drum, step into an alternate mental state, and see what was yet to come, or what had already happened, only in the future. What is time anyway? Yesterday, today, tomorrow, the distant future? Without our being able to remember what happened, we would have no concept of time. We would be living for right now with no history. I know a lot of people who live as if yesterday never happened. They go through life making the exact same mistakes over and over and expecting a different outcome. Some have no concept of the future either. They make absolutely no plans for coming events. If you're watching the Weather Channel and they say there's a hurricane coming into your area, you should be making some plans. Without somebody to write down what took place years ago, it gets difficult to remember history. History is written by the victors. We can't say for sure what really happened way back then. Folks with an agenda have rewritten our history. I'm not talking about the U.S., I'm talking about the whole planet. The Egyptologists insist that their ancestors built all those huge stone monuments in the desert. They have written their history to suit their agenda. In order to actually know what happened hundreds or thousands of years ago, we would actually have to go back and have a look for ourselves. Albert Einstein said that time travel was possible. The trouble was the power source would have to be so huge you'd have to be able to take it with you. You'd be trapped back in the past with no way of getting home. Einstein was using his understanding of how to do things. Using vibrations to look into the past or even to go there, all you need is the device causing the vibrations and the knowledge of the frequency or the hertz to get back. I'll bet there are a few of you out there right now looking to buy a drum or something like that. Try some experiments. Hey, if it works, let me know. Drumming requires that you beat the surface at approximately 240 beats per minute. This can be steady, monotonous beat, a 4-beat rhythm all being the same. One is then assisted in moving out of consciousness awareness into the altered state for a healing or for guidance. As one traverses the 3 worlds of shamanism, one may receive assistance from higher guidance, including angelic, ancestral, animal, vegetable, or mineral spirits. You may also tune into the body in such a way that healing may occur. Drumming may involve slow earth beat or a fast eagle beat. This is determined by the type of work done separately or in combination. Each state brings different results to the process. If using a mallet or a beater, any part of the surface of the drum can be used. The upper, the lower, the left, the right, even the middle will produce different tones. Sometimes the edge of the drum can also be used. A person may take their finger and touch the back of the drum while beating the front to change the tone, change the hertz. A drumming may be done by a single person, the shaman, or in what's known as a drum circle. The drumming circle involves several drums producing many different sounds at the same time, beneficial for healing or stress relief when in an altered state. I've been to a lot of museums. I used to look at the pictures and the dioramas and depicting Egyptians building the pyramids. They would show two or three people lifting car-sized blocks of stone using a wooden lever and some rope. As a kid, I thought they knew what they were trying to depict. Another depiction showed thousands of slaves dragging these blocks up ramps that were way too steep. But the artists weren't engineers. You'd need a bulldozer to pull one of those blocks up the 45-degree slopes shown in most paintings. The friction between the block and the slope would make moving the block impossible. Also, they never said where did those thousands of slaves pulling that block go as the block got closer and closer to its destination. Did they all just fall down the other side of the pyramid? Experiments in sound or acoustic levitation are being conducted in many universities. Researchers have managed to use sound waves to levitate and move tiny particles and liquid droplets. Multiple vibrating plates are used to create different frequencies and move an acoustic field with particles trapped inside. A lot of ancient theorists believe the folks building the pyramids used sound waves or frequencies to move those huge blocks. A German scientific article was translated by a student in New Zealand. It said, "We know from the priests of the Far East that they are able to move heavy boulders up high mountains with the help of a group of various sounds. The knowledge of the various vibrations in the audio range demonstrates to a scientist of physics that a vibrating and condensing sound field can nullify the power of gravitation." A Swedish engineer Olaf Alexandersson wrote about this phenomenon in a publication titled Implosion Number 13. The student was so fascinated by this story he went to Tibet to look into it further. Once there, he watched a group of monks building a wall using huge stones, drums, and horns. The sounds were used to nullify gravity. The blocks were set in place as if they weighed nothing. In a clearing, the monks arranged 19 musical instruments, 13 drums and 6 trumpets, in a 90-degree arc around a large heavy stone. On cue, they began to play these instruments in unison, singing and chanting at the same time. After a few moments, the stone suddenly lifted up into the air, and it continued to rise until it landed on a hilltop perch, approximately 820 feet above the ground. Videos were made showing what the monks could do, but when the student got back home, all of his videos were confiscated. Well, they weren't videos, they were film tapes, but all of his footage was confiscated by the government, suddenly classified as being top secret and hidden away in some government vault. Why would the government keep such discoveries secret from those of us who are paying for everything through our taxes? Here in the United States, we the people are supposed to own everything. At least we used to. At one time, the government didn't own anything. Military bases were handed over to the closest municipality as soon as they were no longer in service. We, the people, owned the government, so therefore we owned all the government things. That's where Army surplus came in. That was back when kids learned civics in school and voting actually did something. Today, there are people running things who have decided that they are the owners of everything, and we're just here to pay for things and take care of them. If the ability to move huge stones was allowed to get out, we would soon discover that we didn't need things like oil or cars or most of the government. Folks would be going places without anybody being able to tell them, you can't go that fast or that high. Borders would be just a suggestion. Now, I'm not in favor of open borders. There are too many nasty folks out there that would come and destroy things. It would be like having a flying car. The reason we don't have flying cars today is because then you could just zip back and forth across any border, and who's going to stop you? Now, they said we would have flying cars by now, but we don't. I don't know if I'd want to have a flying car because what do you do when things break down? Just crash somewhere? Or you get that drunk flyer out there? A lot of what seems to be important right now would lose their value if we could just use sound and vibration to perform tasks. Big oil companies are not to blame. The folks who want to rule the world keep us attached to our current situation as a means of controlling us. People have to spend so much time working to get anywhere that they don't have the time to look into vibrations or psychic abilities. If this were the case, how come research is being done to figure out how to levitate things and how to use vibrations? It goes back to the whole disease research thing. You see the commercials on TV all the time. Give us your money so we can find a cure for insert disease name here. Billions of dollars are being spent on research every year, yet they're no closer to finding a cure today than they were 50 years ago. Every so often they announced, ooh, we found a cure, only to discover that the drug they're selling causes far worse side effects than the problem. The war on poverty was kicked off 1964, yet folks are still living below the poverty level today. The war on drugs was kicked off 1970, yet there are more people hooked on addictive substances today than when the war started. There's no money to be made in finding a cure or a solution. The money is all in the research. The government shovels tons of our cash into all these programs. The folks running these programs turn around and they contribute tons of cash back to the politicians who were so kind to give them our money. Money gets paid out to universities and drug companies. Equipment is bought, salaries are paid. Anytime any kind of a plausible cure or answer comes along, it's quickly stepped on and disappears into a vault somewhere. To keep the money coming in, announcements come out from the colleges all the time saying that they've figured out how to levitate a styrofoam ball. This sounds exciting, so more money gets apportioned for research. As interest begins to wane, another breakthrough comes along. Oh, look, we were able to levitate 2 styrofoam balls, and all of a sudden, money starts pouring in again. Abul Hassan Ali al-Masud was an Arab historian from the 10th century AD. He wrote about ancient Egypt and the methods the methods he discovered they used to move massive stones, including those used to build the pyramids. He said a magic papyrus imprinted with symbols was placed under each stone, after which a metal rod was struck against the stone to initiate the levitation process. According to Al Masud, the stone would be guided along a fenced path with metal poles placed on each side. Some believe these poles could have been used to create high frequency sound vibrations, which would have been responsible for creating the levitation effect. Edward Leeds Scanlon lived back in the turn of the century. That was 1800 to 1900. He stood 5 feet tall and he weighed 100 pounds. He had tuberculosis, just to add to his difficulties. He worked as a stonemason in Latvia. The love of his life was Agnes, not the one from Despicable Me. She didn't feel quite the same towards him. It was one of those, I'll imagine he saw her somewhere and fell in love with her, and she was like, Ed who? Maybe she just didn't like his last name. Well, Ed moved to the United States, and then he started traveling south along the East Coast. Once he was in Florida, he began working on a huge complex to show Agnes how much he loved her. It was to be her home once she came around and discovered that she actually loved him. Ed moved multi-ton coral stones building his castle. He only worked at night so nobody could see what he was doing or how he was doing it. When he was about half done, Ed discovered or decided that he was building in the wrong location. He hired a man with a big truck to move the stones from one place to another. Ed loaded the truck by himself, placing multi-ton stones in the back in just a few minutes. The driver had to stay away from the job site until the truck was ready to go. Ed took his shoes into town, and he had the shoesmith place steel soles and toes on them. He said that the coral was destroying the leather. Later, folks heard that he needed steel shoes so he wouldn't drift away during his construction. A photograph taken of Ed while he was working shows him standing next to a tripod with a small box on top. There's a chain hanging down that was supposed to be used to move the blocks. To me, it looks like a prop to keep folks from wondering how Ed could build his castle all by himself. The tripod, at best, could lift a good-sized stone up and then set it down right back where it started. Ed didn't have any way of moving these stones once he lifted them. The tripod wasn't on wheels, it was just standing there. So how was he able to lift the stones, move them into different locations, and set them back down? Some of them weighed 100 tons. That tripod wasn't nearly strong enough to lift 100 tons. When asked, Ed said he had learned the secrets of the pyramids. He knew how the ancients had built those massive stone structures in only 20 years. He even wrote a book on how anybody could follow in his footsteps. It all had to do with magnetism and vibration. Magnetism, or did he cancel out gravity? In his writings and conversations, Leeds Scanlon never specifically identified sound as the key factor in his work. It is known that he had an interest in radio, and he possessed a huge amount of radio equipment, which he used for unknown purposes. Leeds Scanlon at one time told somebody he knew how to tune in to the music of the stars, a reference that could have either literally or metaphorically connections. On Easter Island, the Rapa Nui had a love of building huge statues called moai. These were mostly about 13 feet tall and they weighed about 13 tons each. When asked how the statues were moved from the quarry where they were built to the locations all over the island, the natives said that the statues walked. A lot of scientists with a bit of time on their hands have set about proving how ancient monoliths were moved. They would get a bunch of students together on a weekend, probably with the promise of beer and pizza. They got some object 1/10 or less the size of what they're trying to move. They got the youngins to move it about a foot or so, and then they would pat each other on the back and declare their experiment was a success. See, that's how it was done. All they proved was you can get a lot of students to sweat away their weekend for free food and drink. When somebody says a statue walked from one place to another, it sounds not just impossible, but scary. Something out of a sci-fi movie. If the Rapa Nui shaman knew how to use vibration to move the moe, it would have looked like they were walking along the road, moving on their own. The locals would have believed this, and that's the story they would have passed on to the Europeans. It's kind of funny and yet odd how so many indigenous people would tell how statues or huge walls or huge mounds were built using bizarre technology, only to have the boys in the white lab coats decide that story's wrong because I don't believe it. Those people are all confused and science knows best. Recent research in frequencies that promote bone growth, fracture healing, pain relief, aid relief, and breathlessness and inflammation show that frequencies between 20 and 150 hertz are healing hertz. Cats purr at frequencies between 20 and 150 hertz. The purring of a cat lowers stress. Petting a purring cat has a calming effect. It decreases the symptoms of dyspnea, that's difficulty breathing, in cats as well as humans. It also lowers blood pressure and reduces the risk of heart attack. Cat owners have a 40% less risk of heart attack. Does that mean I have 0% chance of a heart attack because I'm always surrounded by cats? Most of you know I have cats. You've seen them walk back and forth in front of the camera, or they like to sit behind the camera and vibrate it as they sit there and purr. There you go. Vibrations and hertz can be used to fix what ails you. A lot of people would much rather load their body up with drugs and hope that the side effects aren't worse than what they're trying to fix. There are so many drugs out there with so many bad side effects, it's just amazing that people are still taking them. Which would be better, really? Using some chemical to heal your body, or to try using vibrations? It might take longer, but hey, it's natural and it seems to work. If you have any questions about what I've been talking about, you can find all kinds of information about hertz, vibrations, healing, things like that. Let me know what you think. If I confused you, don't worry. I confused myself as well. A lot of this information was just too much. If you enjoyed the show and you understood it, tell your friends, your neighbors, people you don't even know that they should tune in and listen. Remember, books make good gifts. Till next time, this is Chris James for Strange Things.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? This ain't murder three. Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?